I took the seasonal ranger job at Tower 17 because quiet pays, and I thought quiet meant peace. The station sits at the end of 12 miles of Fire Road, one steel tower above a lot of dark trees. Nights up there have a sound to them that isn't wind, a low humming, like the forest is keeping track. The first week, I learned why the last watch left without finishing his logbook. The radio wouldn't stop receiving, even when no one was broadcasting. On my second night, the base channel cracked open at 2:11 with a calm voice that used my call sign. It asked me to confirm flame on Ridge East by Northeast Sector Delta. I lifted my binoculars, saw nothing but a slope of black fur, and said negative. The voice thanked me and signed off with a tone I didn't recognize. When I checked the recordings later, the entry didn't exist. The tape jumped from 2:09 to 2:13, like those 2 minutes belonged to another shift. Tower 17 is a square room on stilts with windows on all sides and a catwalk that feels safe until you're out there in wind. Inside, there's a wooden Osborne firefinder with a brass sighting device, a map peppered with pencil dots, and a logbook with pages that curl. The generator coughs itself awake at dusk, powers the radio, the fridge, and one stubborn fluorescent tube that hums even when it's off. The bunk is a slab of plywood with a thin mattress and a wool blanket that remembers other people. During orientation, they told me 3 things that weren't in the manual. 1. Don't say your name over open channels after midnight. Use only call signs. 2. If you see a white light moving in the tree line that doesn't cast shadows, don't call it in until it stops. 3. If a voice on the radio asks you to repeat the weather 3 times in a row, answer once and then change frequency. The trainer smiled when he said it like a story, then handed me the keys and the truck radio. By day, the job is routine. Scan quadrants every 15 minutes, log cloud cover, wind speed, and any smoke columns. By night, it's more about listening without letting the forest convince you it's talking. The ridge trails run silent. The creek carries a slow metallic smell, and the pines make a whisper that matches your breath if you let it. I started tapping the desk with a finger while I listened to keep my rhythm from matching anything outside. The third night brought heat lightning. Far flashes without thunder laid a pale sheet over the forest every minute. At 23:40, the weather station pinged a wind shift, and with it, the radio caught a burst of static that sounded like someone breathing through cloth. A different voice than before said my call sign, and then asked for my barometric reading twice, slow and polite. I gave it once. The voice asked again, a little softer. I changed frequency and wrote it down. Down on the service road, I saw a dull white glow move between trunks. Not a headlamp, too even. It floated at shoulder height, paused every 10 yards like it was checking an old map. The glow brightened when it reached the tower base, then went dim as if it remembered it shouldn't be seen. I stepped out to the catwalk and felt the metal under my boots give a tired shiver, not from wind, not from me. The logbook had notes from the last ranger, initials RJ, neat block letters. Some pages were ripped out. On the back of a remaining page, he had penciled a line that wasn't a report. Don't follow the repeaters, they learn your timing. RJ had underlined the word learn until the paper teared. I read it twice, then folded the page over so I wouldn't keep reading it by accident. At 1:06, a faint orange dot appeared low in the trees due west, like a cigarette ember. I sighted it on the firefinder. The bearing lined up with a decommissioned watch platform called Spur 12, a place the map marked as removed. The ember went dark when I called it in. Dispatch answered quick. Voice I knew. Told me to log it as probable campers. The tape recorded that call. The next call, at 1:11, didn't exist. The radio still thanked me in a voice I didn't know and asked me to keep my windows closed. The wind died all at once at 2 a.m. No insects, no creak in the cabling. The forest like a held breath. The fluorescent tube above the desk flickered on without the switch, washed the map in the kind of light that makes everything look like a photograph. The base channel opened in a gentle hiss. A voice said there was a flare at Spur 12 and asked me to acknowledge with my name, not my call sign, my name. I looked at the logbook. RJ had bracketed the words, "Repeaters learn your timing," and drawn a small box around 211. I didn't answer. Instead, I stepped out to the catwalk and scanned the West Ridge. Lightning flashed, and for a second the trees held their breath in a still life. And in that still life, I saw a figure standing where the decommissioned platform should have been. Not a person, not exactly. A vertical shape with the proportions wrong, too narrow at the waist, too long at the shoulders, like a frame for a person had been raised without the person. The white glow pooled at its feet like fog trapped by gravity. The radio asked again for the weather, 3 times in one breath, as if the voice didn't need to inhale. I answered once the way I was told, and then changed frequency. The new channel came alive with the sound of my own tapping on the desk. The exact rhythm I'd used for nights, now a little ahead of me like it was trying to lead. The figure on the ridge turned, not head or shoulders, the whole frame, and the glow stepped closer to the ground as if deciding about stairs that weren't there. I set the firefinder to the bearing for Spur 12 and sighted again. In the ring of the sight, the figure filled the circle and leaned closer until the metal chilled my eyelashes. The radio crackled, and a second voice, this one clipped like a supervisor, asked me to confirm window status. It said, "Wind advisory. Close your windows to prevent loss of pressure." I realized every window in Tower 17 was already shut and latched. I said nothing. The fluorescent tube clicked off. The dark felt like a door closing. Then the stairs below the tower made a sound like a foot scraping. Slow, deliberate, once per step. Not weight, but the suggestion of weight, enough to set dust drifting in the flashlight beam. Something was coming up that wasn't heavy enough to be an animal and wasn't careful enough to be a person. The voice on the radio softened and said my name again, like we were old friends. It said, "Open up and breathe with me so I can match your rate." It said it like an instruction you're supposed to follow without thinking. I pulled the generator kill switch and the tower went quiet. The radio stayed on another second without power and then died mid-breath. The glow at the base of the tower dimmed, then brightened like it had noticed being noticed. The scraping on the stairs paused at the landing before the hatch. I stood with my hand on the hatch lever and counted to 60 once, then again. On 60, the scraping resumed, but backward, each step in reverse, slower this time, as if disappointed. When the generator spun back up, the tape recorder chewed forward from 213 as if nothing had happened. I logged wind calm, no smoke visible, and wrote a note in the margin under RJ's handwriting. If you hear yourself tapping on a channel you didn't choose, stop tapping. If a voice asks for your name after midnight, let it ask. If you see a platform that was removed, it isn't for you. At dawn, I hiked down to the Spur 12 site because I needed proof I hadn't invented it. The trail was overgrown, the platform posts cut flush with the dirt. No fresh ash, no cigarette butt, nothing to reflect the orange I saw. But on the bark of a fir at shoulder height was a small rectangle rubbed smooth, the size of a name tag, and below it 3 tiny staples half pulled. Something had worn a label there and then taken it back. Back at the tower, I found a page from the logbook tucked under the firefinder, torn along the spiral, RJ's writing on both sides. One line circled twice. Don't let them get your pace. I slid the page into a plastic sleeve and taped it inside the cabinet door next to the first aid kit. When the wind came back, the tower cables sang a low note that matched my pulse, then drifted a hair off. I made coffee strong and didn't drink it. The forest resumed its humming as if it had lost interest. If you ever pull a night shift alone above a forest, keep your rhythm to yourself. Count in your head, not on wood. Answer weather once. Keep windows latched, not because of wind, but because something out there likes to line its breathing up with yours. And if a channel asks for your name after midnight, be busy writing in the log. I'll finish the season. I'll turn in the keys. Someone else will come up here with a clean blanket and a fresh pen. The map will keep its pencil dots, and the tape will keep its missing minutes. The forest can hum to whoever listens. I'll keep my pace. Subscribe for more original horror stories